through all this fun stuff here. All good?
All good.
Perfect. All right, so just a quick
Recording in progress.
1 second.
Everybody mute your speakers.
That was me discussing it for no.
Let me make sure I can actually see my slides. Thank you. Right. Okay. So just a quick disclaimer, right? This material is for educational purposes only. Please don't engage in any malicious activity with the material presented. Always request permission and follow vulnerability reporting guidelines. I'll get to why that is very important in a little bit. And of course, all material, views, and opinions expressed in this presentation are solely my own. And everything is personalized, we'll say. All right, so like I said, we got a lot to talk about in the next 30, 40-ish minutes. So gonna kind of hit a few quick points, but there are some key topics we're gonna really dig into here. Just a quick little agenda. We're gonna talk about what the DOM is. We're going to talk about what exactly is XSS or cross-site scripting. Then we're gonna go into some real-world threats, some real-world examples along with that. Then we're actually going to get into weaponizing cross-site scripting vulnerabilities. We're going to be talking about network mapping, specifically internal. We're going to be talking about reconnaissance, page content manipulation, and then finally, we'll get into the biggest point here, something I've been working on for a little over a year now, Mimic FA and MFA mimicry. As you know, MFA being multi-factor authentication, pretty useful these days, as I'm sure everyone would agree. I do have a live demo. I should be able to present if everything works fine. I also have a video should the demo gods fail me. We're also going to talk about a little extra slide point here, busting frame busters. I had a bit of an issue starting last week. I had a whole other demo I wanted to present, but Microsoft caught on. So and then we'll get into defenses, because this is defense against the dark arts, of course, right? So quick, who am I? I'm a penetration tester / red teamer at RTX, formerly Raytheon. Bushcrafter by day, hacker by night. I love being outside. I love climbing the mountains, going through forests. But at night, I'll sit on my terminal for like 12 hours, and then the sun's up, and I just, rinse and repeat, never sleep, right? I have a bunch of certs. To be honest with you, they all kind of blend into me at some point. But if you have any questions about anything, any like cert particular, please let me know. Feel free. I'll chat with you about exactly what that experience was. I'm also a B-Sides badge designer and coordinator. Yeah. If you were at B-Sides last year at Roanoke, and you got that weird looking badge, that was courtesy of my team, me included. Actually, one of them's right here. Also, web app penetration tester for critical infrastructure. I can't say any more on that for obvious reasons. And a bug bounty hunter. So if you have any questions against those, please feel free to reach out to me as well. Right. So let's get started. What the heck is the DOM? So the DOM stands for a document object model. So when you open your browser and you go to any web page, what is loading in front of you? That entire web page is a DOM. It is a series of nodes and a collection of objects, all loaded in sort of a semi-sequential manner, but in a hierarchical order. So essentially, what happens is you go to a web page, the response gives you a document. That document has a HTML root attribute. Under that, there are headers, there are paragraphs, there are image tags, right? Everything you see in front of you is the DOM whenever you open a browser. And like I said, it's a collection of all these different objects. Now, the DOM specifically is an API that we can actually get and set with. So API, application program interface, right? It is a method, or I should say, an object we can use to both view any object within the DOM and modify it in real time. Now, there are like specific libraries in JavaScript, which of course is usually used in web apps, that will really help you with looking and interacting with the DOM. However, it's a little out of scope, but I do want to point out jQuery because a lot of the attacks that we will use are helped a lot by a website pulling jQuery. So I have to give that a mention. So the DOM, right? As I mentioned, it's everything in your browser, the entire page that's loaded, just a collection of objects. And we can actually interact with the DOM through the API. So if you open, let's say Chrome, a lot of modern browsers will have developer tools, as they call it. And you can actually go into the console and talk with the DOM. So if you just type into the console document.body.inner HTML, that's essentially, hey, DOM, can I have all the inner HTML code within the body, within the main document? Right, we are getting this from the DOM API. And as you can see, we actually get, we get a div tag, we get the header, we get the paragraph, we get everything that is in this example.com example page. We can also change it, right? We can modify this in real time. It is a get and set API. So if we did document.body.inner HTML equals, it's going to change whatever is on the screen, essentially, right? We're modifying the DOM, and it gets viewed from the end user in real time. So right here, we just changed it to modified, and that is all that is in that DOM object right then and there. So then what the heck is cross-site scripting, right? XSS cross-site scripting, it's essentially injection of content into a DOM object, right? It's usually found in an input field, which is called like a source, and that aren't properly sanitized. So if a user is trying to exploit a cross-site scripting vulnerability, they're probably finding some kind of input field in a form that is not properly sanitized to a point where either the server or the client side will respond with a injected payload, typically JavaScript. And it's typically it just provides a means for a threat actor to execute custom JavaScript given the current context. I say that because, again, I mentioned jQuery. If jQuery is involved within a web app and there's a cross-site scripting vulnerability, there's a lot more intricate things you can kind of do with that. There are 3 different types of cross-site scripting. We're going to really hit just more on the reflective side, because that's where my examples come from, but I have to mention the other 2 for posterity's sake here. So reflective cross-site scripting, type 1. It's a vulnerable input or query parameter in the request itself, which is used to hold and inject the payload. And right here, I have an example from xss-game.appspot.com. This is actually a site used by Google to provide education and knowledge on cross-site scripting vulnerabilities. So if you want to go learn how to do them, that's actually a really fun little game. And continuing on for this presentation, we will use them as an example because I don't want to show you an actual cross-site scripting vulnerability on the site. So, right, reflective XSS, it's a payload that is reflective from the server itself. What I mean by that is a user has to click a specific link with the payload attached, or they have to somehow get there non-autonomously. This means that typically the payload is built into the URL. A user clicks that URL. The XSS payload is sent to the server. The server responds with that payload within the DOM. So that whole response that the end user receives will have the payload built in from its reflective, right? Of course, as I mentioned, this does require a user to actually click a link with the payload attached. Meaning it's not typically persistent, right? The server itself doesn't hold the payload. The URL does, and then the DOM will interact with it, inject it, and boom, you have cross-site scripting, you have custom JavaScript executing on the user's page. But this is the most common type of XSS. So this is probably all you're going to see these days because of a lot of a large adoption of sanitization libraries come into play when we talk about stored XSS, which is type 2. as I mentioned, reflective, it's reflecting from the server. A user has to usually click a link to be able to get owned from it, essentially. But stored XSS, right? That's actually stored on the server. Typically, you'll see this in like a comment section. That's the best example really here. It's essentially an unescaped or improperly sanitized input field, which is stored on the server. So when you go to, I don't know, test.com/comments, the web server is going to respond with, all the different comments. Within those comments, there may be a cross-site scripting payload. Right? The user didn't have to click a special link or anything. They just had to visit a specific site, and that responded with a payload attached. Again, this is pretty common in comment sections of old forums. These are kind of rare these days. You're not really going to see many stored XSS because of the wide adoption of sanitization libraries. What I mean by that is a lot of pages will load all content and then sanitize them before the DOM actually renders them. So even if there might be a cross-site scripting vulnerability within a comment section, let's say, a lot of libraries will be like, hey, no, you can't do that, and just erase it from the DOM entirely. But they are persistent, right? They're from the server itself. It's not reflective. It's coming from the server. I do kind of gloss over this one just because they're really dangerous, but they're not as prevalent. I would say this is the least prevalent in my experience. This is type 0, DOM XSS. Essentially, very similar to type 1, a user has to actively click a link, but there is a parameter or variable within the link itself, and it's never reflective. So the receiving web server will not actually see what payload or what XSS vulnerability exists. It will simply see that the user goes to /level3/frame. And then following that, anything after the hashtag is a DOM object, and that is all client side. So the user still has to click a link, but the web server never actually sees the payload because after the hashtag, that is just all for the client's DOM. That is never sent in the URL. The browser will see anything after the hashtag and include it in whatever original response is from the server. A bit confusing, but the best way to kind of see it is this is like a total client-side attack. And in this instance, we see that there's JavaScript specifically trying to load a image from a source or from a number variable, which we provide within the DOM variable within the URL, essentially. And we end up injecting our own JavaScript within that variable when the DOM is loaded. So all in all, server never sees the payload. It can be really dangerous that way because the server will never know that it exists. Very, very stealthy, but very rare. So just kind of push it aside for now. So proving cross-site scripting is usually showcased in really basic ways. And typically when I say basic, I mean cross-site scripting vulnerabilities are proved out by just showing an alert on screen or sending out the current user session token, or perhaps even redirecting the user to a completely different site, right? These aren't harmless, but they're not really impactful to a lot of people, right? Let's say I have a cross-site scripting vulnerability on RBTC.com, right? Something like that. And all I do to prove it is I make an alert pop up that says, hey, you've been hacked, haha, right? That's not a big deal. It's scary, but it's not the biggest deal. As such, the vulnerability severity might actually be labeled as lower. It may take a longer time to triage that simply because it's not very impactful, but XSS can do so much more. So typically when these are proved out, they're just very simple payloads that don't really mean anything, which is a problem because vulnerability severity, leads to a faster time of patching that vulnerability. I also want to mention HTTP only is a attribute that can be marked on cookies. So if that attribute is marked on a cookie, you can't actually access that cookie from an XSS payload, right? JavaScript can't touch a cookie if that attribute is marked. Browsers like to be secure in that manner, so you can't really steal many cookies these days through XSS payloads. That's typically something people try to do, and they'll prove it out without actually saying, oh, the cookie was marked as HTTP only. I can't even steal that. So, what's the point, right? I can open a message box and redirect the user. Big deal, right? XSS vulnerability, whatever. We'll label it medium, get to it next year. Well, there's some legitimate real world threats these days that use these. So I always like to think XSS vulnerabilities are deceptively simple, but very, very powerful capability wise. A lot of times these days, attacks are becoming much more sophisticated. Attacks like threat actors love to start chaining these smaller things to make really big snowball effects. And we see that literally like every day in this field. And I want to point out XSS specifically because it's underestimated in that manner, but we see a lot of threat actors using these all the time to chain all of these smaller ones into one big attack chain, essentially. And as I mentioned, right, some vendors will be scoring these medium, high, low. There's a lot of issues with our current environment and how we treat XSS because they aren't patched sometimes. Sometimes a vendor will see it and like, I don't care, you proved you can open an alert box, right? Again, you can do so much more. You can make a real site into a really bad, malicious black hole. And I want to point this out here. Right, these days we're teaching our end users to trust the URL, the main host name, right? Let's say you have companyportal.org. That's your work's main portal, right? You always trust companyportal.org. It's where you log in, that's where you do all your work. You don't really care about the rest of the URL. How many times has anyone told you, hey, look at the full URL and not just the host name? Right? On the bottom here, we see companyportal.org. Now, if you are not paying too much attention, that may look official. But right, we see CON instead of COM, right? So if you have a quick eye, you'll say, hey, that's not my real portal. I shouldn't touch this. I should report it. But companyportal.org, that's our real one. That's totally fine. I don't care about the rest of this URL and the fact that there's an encoded XSS payload that steals all my credentials, right? That's what I mean here. We're teaching users to look at the main host name instead of the full URL. That full URL could host an XSS payload that does some serious damage. And you wouldn't even know because we're not teaching people, and you can encode these things like crazy, making it really hard to read that any human-wise, I should say. Right, so that's really the main power of XSS vulnerabilities. We can make real sites do some serious damage without you even knowing. There's a lot of examples specifically for how XSS was used by legitimate APTs. I won't go over too much of this, but two I actually want to point out. In 2019, there was a XSS vulnerability in a subdomain of Fortnite. And what happened was you could actually send this URL that was from a legitimate Fortnite domain, and it would automatically log that user in and take all of those session tokens, that username, that password, and send it, exfil it to a threat actor. So super easy, legitimate Fortnite URL. You click it, you think you're going into the game, right? But all of your creds were just stolen. There's also another one, Water Pamela. They ended up taking a cross-site scripting vulnerability within a form, and if a merchant or administrator opened this form, that cross-site scripting vulnerability would execute and steal administrative level credentials for, I think this one was specifically for online shops. So think of like Shopify.com, right? You probably, if you have admin credentials, you could probably see every single order, all these credit card numbers, the whole shebang, right? So threat actors are actually using these in real life. Let's get to the fun part. All that blue team nonsense. Let's actually break things here. So as I mentioned, you can do so much with XSS instead of just popping an alert box. Specifically here, I'm going to talk about network mapping. Now, if you click on this link, right, it executes a XSS payload, which essentially is just more JavaScript gets put into the DOM. You may have no idea what's going on in the background. But we can actually, with JavaScript and these XSS payloads, we can scan your internal network. Now, there are a few caveats to this. A lot of browsers, a lot of modern browsers, I should say, are really good at stopping this kind of thing these days. But you can scan for internal DNS. You can scan for open ports within a internal network. So, for example, if a port is alive, it may respond differently than if it's dead. There's different little timing techniques you can do to make it look a little more less suspicious and to make it more authentic as a real net scanner. But right, let's say I want to go against real.com, right? I go to, hey, Ben at real.com, look at this link. They go to real.com with this hidden payload. I'm now querying all their internal DNS and internal port information because they clicked that link. Maybe they're inside their VPN too, right? So now I can even look for net shares if I really wanted to. So there's a lot of internal network reconnaissance you can do just from an XSS payload. Not only that though, it's even more. Thanks to even more APIs, this one being the BOM, which is exactly like the DOM, except BOM is browser object model. So you're going to have a lot more access to the browser functionality. And what does that mean? Well, that actually means the current width and height of your screen. So through that, I can tell if you're on your phone or not. I can tell if you're looking at this link from your computer, from a second monitor. I can tell your external IP, where you're connecting from. I can tell if you're running a really expensive graphics card. Maybe I want to hit some specific points if you're running one of those like 4080s or one of those really high AI ones these days. Right. I can also look for your clipboard access and camera access and your microphone. And honestly, any device connected to your device, I can say, hey, to continue, click this button. Remember, you're on companyportal.org. This is a site that you trust. You're going to click yes. And when you do that, you just gave me access to your camera, your microphone, any other devices that you're connected to, right? So with a little finesse, you can do so much more reconnaissance. Just kind of depends on what you're looking for. The big one though, we can manipulate content in real time, right? Remember I showed you interacting with the DOM happens on the fly, super easy. Well, we can have a payload, essentially, that takes all the contents and replaces it with whatever we want. We could even make it completely the same or change one specific item, right? Let's say this specific web page is like, call me at blah, blah, blah. Well, we can change that phone number in a second, right? Maybe we're doing some kind of phone scam or something, right? But truth of the matter, it's a web app that you trust. I skipped a page, sorry. Yeah, again, it's a web page that we trust. So we should know that whatever's going on is probably fine, right? We can insert different script tags that takes in more JavaScript from different sources. We can put in extra photos. We can make it look like the site's been hacked. We can do all of these different things. We can put in fake captchas. That's a pretty big issue. A lot of non-technical users will just follow a sign that says, hey, make sure you're authenticate, tell me you're a real human by copying this and pasting it in PowerShell. Right now I have a shell to your computer because a XSS payload said, hey, you're good, right? We can do so much more with this too. We can even add event listeners within our XSS payload that logs all user content within the tab. We can track all of your mouse movements. We can track every single key that you've pressed and exfil it out, right? Think of like your form, like just a login form. If there's an XSS vulnerability attached to that, we're going to read all of your creds in real time and you won't know the wiser. Yeah, so a lot of really fun stuff you can do just with one single payload. Because we're playing with JavaScript, the world's our oyster. Now I skipped to the slide on accident, but I do want to say, specifically here, you'll notice at the top there, it kind of looks like I'm on a mobile device, and how I took that photo. That's because I am. Something I want to bring up, smishing can be really effective when you find a cross-site scripting vulnerability, specifically because a lot of mobile devices will shorten URLs to just the host name. So you're going to say, oh, companyportal.org, click, that's fine, that's me, I know what that is. When there's actually an entire payload attached to that, right? Also, mobile devices, specifically Safari, which I hate, will shorten the URL to only the host name. And I can't understand why they do that, because I want to see the whole route, but they'll only show you the host name of what you're looking at. So again, companyportal.org, you're used to that, that looks fine. Right, so a lot of messaging applications will also shorten it, but you can also use URL redirectors, shorteners, what have you. And if you're trying to spot something like this, what the payload can actually do is we can actually take the bomb, right? We can look at the browser and say, hey, if the user opens developer tools, change back, right? Say I didn't even exist. So we can actually detect if you're trying to look at us through the developer tools, which is really, really cool. And if you've ever worked with JavaScript, you'll know that it is an insane language that is really weird. And you can obfuscate and pack JavaScript like crazy. So this is very, very simple. It's still not super human readable, but this is a full payload creating an iframe of the page. So pretty simple, but right, you can't necessarily read that just from the code itself. A lot of crazy stuff you can do with page content manipulation. The biggest thing, mimicking MFA. So this touches a little on cores and CSP, which is a little outside the scope of here. And I'm seeing time, but we're going to essentially combine our knowledge of XSS and manipulating the DOM and a few other nifty little tricks, including reverse proxies, to essentially create a workflow where, hey, click this link, companyportal.org, has our XSS attached. That link is going to load a malicious JS script, which changes the entire DOM to fit a fake login page that looks like the real one. Except this fake login page is from our reverse proxy. So everything looks totally normal because it is. Our reverse proxy is calling out to the legitimate login page and taking all that and just forwarding it to the user, right? It's just, hey, we're going to take this and give it to you. Well, what happens there is that's a man in the middle, right? We broke TLS, transport layer security. That is the most important thing about browsing. And we use web browsers all the time. So when we break TLS, you're done. We now are a man in the middle because we have a malicious JavaScript putting in an iframe of our reverse proxy that is actually giving the real login page. This is going to sound way more cooler and make a lot of sense when I actually show you here. Yeah, right. We're taking this login workflow. We're saying, hey, log in to this real page, this real endpoint. User logs in. If there's any MFA attached to that, we're just simply going to copy that, right? So what happens is once they get to an MFA portion of that login, we're going to say, hey, hold up, stop yours. On the back end, on a reverse proxy, we're going to spin up an entire new request, use the credentials that we captured, and try to log in as this user. Now, if there's a push request, the user just logged in, but they don't know their request was stopped, right? So they're expecting a push request, but it's actually from our machine. I'll get to this in a second here. Again, it's going to look much better. But we also use observers to listen for these changes and change the DOM on the fly to make sure the user doesn't suspect a single thing. Again, we have full control of what the user sees and whatever they input as well, just from a cross-site scripting payload. So this is my little fun tool, Mimic Cafe. I can't really release it yet for a specific reason. I'll tell why. But essentially, we use a browser automation tool called Selenium to automate login with captured credentials from our payload. So any MFA requirements that are required from a specific workflow are forwarded to the user. So, you know, again, the victim is expecting some kind of MFA prompt, whether that's a push request, whether that's a TOTP token, right? They're going to input that, whatever they're doing. We capture those creds and we immediately create an entire new request offsite. They're expecting to log in, and they will, but we will too, because we just stole all of their stuff in one fell swoop. This works best against OTP and TOTP. Push requests also work. Honestly, any embedded form this will work on. I want to say embedded form because OAuth is a very popular MFA provider, is now pushing their own non-embedded form process. I don't want to say this because of this, but I find it intriguing that when I started working on this, they started pushing that out. But right, and our reverse proxy in the backend that's taking all this information and translating it to the user, that is essentially just Nginx with a Node.js. And I'll demo this here real quick, but as you can see, we're still in our XSS game. Let's just say xssgame.appspot.com is actually github.com. Let's say I found a real XSS vulnerability on GitHub, right? So URL would look like github.com. Oh, it's asking me to log in. This is totally normal, right? What's actually going on? I just stole your username and password. I stood up a Selenium session. I'm trying to log in as you. I need OTP. Well, user's logging in that for me. I steal that. I put it in my session. I logged in as them. And that's me. I just logged in. And the user knows nothing about that. So we're going to actually show that right now. If it works. One quick thing. Oh, that's not going to show. 1 second. One quick thing here. My domain was specifically blocked by Google and Microsoft. So if you try to do this yourself right now, you're going to get a fun little message that says, this is a dangerous site. You know, a site called thisSiteIsNotSafe.com being a dangerous site. That's kind of right, okay. So as shown here, right, let's just pretend this is github.com. I didn't find a real XSS on GitHub. This is just an example. But this is that XSS game. So this is a XSS payload actually running right now. Again, looks totally normal. So I want to be like, okay, well, I'll just log in with my credentials, right? I'm actually going to need my phone for this part. This, again, it's MFA, right? Me. Open you here. All right, so let's just say, okay, I'll log in as Security Raven and my password. This is not my real GitHub, by the way. This is a burner. So you'll see its password here in a second if this works. Okay, that should be in there. Let me look over at the console right over here. Right, okay, so this is actually the reverse proxy running right now. And we can actually see all requests and responses. Furthermore, we can edit those responses. Right, this is reverse proxy. We can do whatever we want. TLS is completely broken. We see every request you make and every response that is given. So we can do anything with those as well. But I should have brought it. Okay, perfect. Right, okay, so I'm going to sign in. Oh, wrong password. My bad. Let me make sure. Okay, yeah, wrong password. Again, no big guy. I do have a demo video, so maybe I got pwned. Oh. Okay, perfect. Right, okay, so great, two-factor off. As you can see at the top there, we're still in XSS game.appspot. It's asking me for 2-alph. Let's go back to here. Well, I think the terminal might have turned off on me. We're going to wait for that to load back up before I put in our creds here. I'm running off demo gods, right? Okay, perfect. Right, okay. Okay, so we need our MFA, right? Or our TOTP, if you will. Let's look at this here. Okay. 883. Normal user, doing normal user stuff, logging into GitHub. And boom. So I'll actually scroll up there to show you because a lot is happening right now. As you can see, those are all authentication tokens from GitHub. We logged in as that user, even though they had MFA, because we stole it. We'll scroll up real quick, just in case we missed it here. So, right, our victim enters the creds. This is our proxy, right? We're proxying everything to github.com. The user doesn't know this, right? It's going to look totally normal for them. Let's see, a lot of post data happening. We get their creds. The user clicks the login button. Again, we can see all requests and responses. So if there are creds in those requests, we can see those too. Did I miss the part where let's see. You should see my username and password up there. Unless I commented that out for this specific reason, I might have done that. Oh, okay. So as you saw, right, I entered the OTP. It caught that, right? We used observers. So we were able to take that OTP, create a new session with the creds that we caught, put in that OTP, and timing wise, it worked out. We were able to log in as this user. I guess I might have commented out the part where it captures the creds specifically for this presentation, but it also creates, let's see, should have created a quick little let's see, there should be a nice PNG of our login. Just again to further show you that this does work, weirdly enough. Awesome, cool. So we logged in as this user, right? We were able to completely bypass MFA by capturing all the requirements, filtering it through our proxy, and creating a new request just from one XSS payload, right? This is the kind of damage that these can actually do. And I showcase this specifically for a few reasons. I'll get back here just to continue. Oh, we already saw that. So I use GitHub as an example. I originally had Microsoft's login form as an example, right? That does a lot of damage. O365, probably all of our companies use it. Now, if I was able to have a demonstration of that, that would be much more powerful than just GitHub. But they did some interesting stuff within the past few weeks. So I'm going to talk about frame busters real quick. These are essentially little bits of code within a well-developed web app that will stop this kind of attack from happening. It will stop any iframes from being generated or stop the site from being put in an iframe. Typically, it'll look like something like this piece of code. This is Microsoft's actual login form code. Just a little chunk of it. It's essentially saying, hey, if we are in an iframe, tell our metrics the URL that we're in so we can block it. That's exactly what happened to mine. My host name no longer works with the Microsoft login because they blocked it from their metrics tab, which I thought was really, really interesting. Normally, frame busters are really hard to bypass. However, because we have full control, you're running in a reverse proxy. We're an iframe inside of an iframe inside of an iframe. We have full control of the environment. We can change your code. We can change anyone's code on the fly. So instead of if window.top doesn't equal window.self, we can simply change it to nothing. We can just get rid of that function entirely whenever we want. So frame busters don't really work as a protection against this kind of thing. And I do have at least one photo of this working. I grabbed it a while ago, but I did have this one working just as an example. Again, XSS game using this domain. But we had this whole thread. They changed a lot of their login code. Again, not going to say it's because of me, but it broke specifically my demo. So, man, they got me there. And you know, I got sloppy. I didn't actually see that they sent my host name to their metrics engine. So that was me. That was me getting popped by them. Okay, so quick defenses here. Use MFA if you're not using it. It doesn't matter these days. Like if you don't have multi-factor authentication on anything you have, use it. Man, like passwords are getting popped, leaked all the time. Now, if you do use MFA, use physical MFA. I know a lot of places don't have that capability right now. It's being adopted more, much more worldwide. But physical MFA, I cannot man in the middle that. What I just showed there does not work against physical MFA. If you have a security token, I can't take that cert. I can't do anything like that. I can't read any of that information from the browser. So if you have physical MFA, I definitely would advise adopting that much more against your accounts. You can also block JavaScript execution from unknown sources. That would stop something like that from happening as well. The thing is, it's not very scalable. It's very, very effective. But if you're going to try to like pinpoint every malicious JavaScript, it will take you literally thousands of years. So it's going to be really difficult to do that. But if you're just on your own client, having something like NoScript is a vast improvement. That'll actually just allow you to stop any specific script in general, which a lot of the ads and stuff will run on JavaScript. So if you want a quick ad blocker, you know, there's the plug. You can also require any web infrastructure to run through a proxy first. That way you can log anything strange happening, like something like that. You can also prevent unknown host source inclusions. So, you know, right, my XSS payload was getting something from evil.com. This site is not safe.com. If you were running all of your infrastructure through a proxy, you can make sure it only receives sources from known or valid endpoints, right? Anything from like a Microsoft CDN or something like that. You know, of course, I could always put my stuff in a Microsoft CDN, so that's not very effective, but it's better than nothing. Few other things you can know here. You can limit authentication into portals using an internal IP space only. So that's like conditional access, right? Make sure users have to be within a VPN or some kind of secure client to actually be able to get into sensitive data or for, you know, I think Microsoft does this fairly well, actually. I haven't touched it, but also utilizing a WAF against your web application, you can always log abnormal traffic or behavior. You can cache a large number of XSS payloads. They're fairly cheap and easy to set up these days, but they're not impossible to bypass. A lot of XSS payloads are signature based and aren't actually like loaded in the WAF. So you can kind of easily bypass these if you know what to look for. And of course, always test and triage your web apps. Automated scanning is not enough these days. Please, you know, if you don't want to test it yourself, get someone to do it for you. Because web apps are being broken into all the time because it was just an automated scan. They thought that was enough. And of course, always filter and validate and escape any and all kind of user input to stop any XSS payload from happening, right? Large scale web apps, that's going to take a very long time. Make sure you do it well. That's why we have QA environments, though. We want to be able to test and make sure that users don't have a problem entering what they need, but they're not entering anything they shouldn't, right? And essentially, if you can stop XSS from happening, you can stop someone like me from creating an entire chain that took a year to build, into completely breaking any MFA you have, unless it's physical. Any questions on all of that content? Oh, sorry, yeah.
So the TFTP situation, how does the user, is the user able to log in as well?
So it depends. Sometimes they are, it kind of depends on the situation. It's sort of a semi-race condition. I've had times where, and I actually don't know if I have that up still, but that GitHub example, that will normally respond with this code was already used. You can change that though. You can forward your session tokens into that session and have it log in. It may break functionality that would just have to log in again though. You can make that alert say something different. You can do a lot of different things because you have full control of that. But yeah, it's sometimes it works. If the user also wants to log in at the same time. It's iffy. Kind of depends on whatever the network's feeling that day. Yeah.
The example you gave with the user ID and the password, if a pass key is used, does that change the dynamics?
I mean, so any credentials entered can be stolen through that reverse proxy. If it's like certificate based or like if there's a lot more secrets at play and there's if I can't replay it, it's not feasible. But if I can replay it, it doesn't matter. So like if there's a secret that I need to be able to replay it and I can't get it, then that breaks. So something again like physical MFA. If you input it and it's used, I can steal it, essentially. If there's no further checks, which usually doesn't happen. Yeah, so anything can be stolen. Yeah.
I never liked JavaScript myself.
Yeah.
I mean, my entire company is based on it, but
Yeah.
do you recommend any good blacklist or whitelisters that will just, block everything and just allow stuff you commonly use it, just click on?
That would be, NoScript is my go-to for that, right? NoScript will label like all the common ones that are like blocked. It'll like, I think there's like an option to like auto block known bad ones. Then you can like pick and place. It'll give you a list of every source that it's pulling from, and you can specifically like tie them to certain functions of the web app to be able to like disable stuff. I mentioned like ads, right? A lot of ads will use their own JavaScript, and you can just be like, hey, no, don't load that anytime I open this, right? NoScript is my
I
go-to.
didn't realize it did that.
Yeah, there's probably more, but that's just my go-to. Perfect, cool. All right, well, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. If you have any further questions about all that content, let me know. I think that should be available
It's gonna be
to the folks who want it, but
yeah.
perfect. All right, thanks, guys.
Get a second set up here. I'll put a URL and a QR code up here that you get to all the slides and everything, so everything you see there. It works, no bugs. Hey, Ben, do you know when, that's still here?
Yeah.
Oh, do you know when, B-side is this year? We talked about it.
We have the date. 1 second.
The spring?
It's early June, that I know, I just trying to remember the exact year.
June. We have it marked June.
Let's go, B-side Roto. It's an awesome event. Can't afford to go DEF CON, pick up the B-side. Spring just sold out.
Oops.
All right, hold on.
Yeah. Okay. Was that Yeah.
Yeah, the whole thing's still hard.
I like safe still need some notes. To be honest, I should have put it in the Docker Terraform
Check it out.
process. I got it.
All right, I meant to put this up at the beginning of the night, so this is the info page that I'm going to be presenting on tonight. Grab that QR code, you'll have access to all the slides, presentations, etc. There's Ben's presentation right there. If you click on the Google Drive link, that'll take you to the Google Drive with all the presentations, PDFs, samples, videos, stuff like that. Okay, just grab that one QR code, you got it all. Next up is my talk on manually detecting, tracking down Linux endpoint malware. And patch knife is Kalen here. Be around 7.
I'm
He's
here.
the one presenting from Virginia Tech, pen testing. He's our red team, or head of the red team. He's going to talk about a kit, a tool he put together called Patch Knife that brings together a lot of his different exploits, exploiting and reporting tools. So. The video still working? You guys on the video? On Zoom? I shut it off. Do you think I should share my screen or just keep like this? Just think.
Uh,
I'll keep going like we were.
yeah, I think it's fine.
Look, they have access to the slides, but they're throughout this.
All right, my name's Tweaks. Working for Virginia CyberRange, Virginia Tech, and help head up the RBTC IT-Security Council. It used to be the Security Forum, or Cybersecurity Forum, but we cyber out, made it more IT centric. So same stuff though. So I'm going to be presenting on a recent run-in I had with some malware on one of my systems. So I have not had a virus since the 80s on my Amiga. So I'm very diligent. I used to collect a little bit about me. I worked for the DADD and back in the day, and I used to collect viruses. So I actually did antivirus back then. Wasn't malware, it was antivirus. I did antivirus for Brooks Air Force Base down in San Antonio, Texas, where the NSA is, and I had a desk drawer full of infected floppies. I used to collect viruses. It was just a thing. I don't know why. Me and coworkers used to play jokes on each other by infecting each other's machines, decontaminate. It was a lot of fun. So when I came across this, I thought, oh no, my reputation. I'm going to be the guy, the security guy that got the virus. But so I figured I'd turn it into a learning opportunity. After I dug into this thing, it was really a lot of fun. So I kind of got a pet on my system for a little while. So we're going to touch on popular types of malware, talk about this malware experience, talk about a little bit about static versus dynamic analysis. I'm not a malware expert, okay? So a little imposter syndrome here tonight. I'm a little bit out of my leg. I reached out to Ben and Kayla and said, hey guys, you guys mind looking at this binary for me? And they're like, what are you sending me tweets? What is this? I said, it is live, so be careful. I had it password protected and zipped and stuff, but neither one of them had the time to really dig into it. I'm not a reverse engineering. Ben's a reverse engineering guru on the binary. What's that tool you use? Ninja?
Binary Ninja.
Binary Ninja. I still haven't checked that out yet. Because I probably goes, and I'm too old to remember GDP. So
Yeah.
So we're gonna get into this tonight. So talk a little bit about Trojans. So just to set some terms, we do have a couple really young folks in the room tonight. I've got a couple homeschoolers here from our cybersecurity club. So I'm gonna talk in some low terms. So a Trojan is deceptive malicious code that tempts you to run it, right? That's basically what it is in a nutshell. Remote access Trojans or tools, backdoors. These are things that are put on your system to allow remote access. You'll commonly see this kind of thing with coupled in conjunction with ransomware. So someone takes over your system, your mom, your grandma's system, and steals money from their bank, that kind of stuff. This is just a few of the top like 20, as well as things like keyloggers and things like that grab passwords. Crypto lockers, which is my mom got hit by a crypto locker 3 times. This is a phone call from India. I got hit 3 times. 3rd time she finally calls me. I'm like, Mom, what are you doing? She said, I paid them twice. I didn't want to pay them again. I'm like, no. So, teaching her that has been the challenge. I'm sure you guys all have mom stories and grandma stories, right?
Yeah.
And then a dropper, which is basically kind of a middleware when you get malware that downloads other payloads. So they initially get on the system, they use a dropper to pull in extra malware. Usually that actually has the binary exploits and that kind of thing. We're gonna be talking about the things that the one I'm talking about tonight is a that's a crypto locker. I'm sorry, crypto locker. So crypto locker in this case is a way of stealing your bitcoins. Misspoke. So getting on your system, and if you have any Bitcoin, if you don't have any Bitcoin, they'll just steal your CPU cycles and generate coins. Okay, if you have a big cool gaming rig with big GPUs, they like that. They really like that a lot. My system was a boring work system, so it wasn't a big deal. So this is kind of my experience for the one we're talking about here tonight. To give you a summary, jumping ahead, so this is what infected the system I was on. The infection vector is still unknown. It could be a number of things. It was probably, given my behavior and the way it made me feel when I did it, was loading little Chrome plugins to do things. I said, I really need a Chrome plugin for tracking GUIP stuff. I said, I don't know, this looks a little too popular and this one looks a little too risky. I went and clicked on a couple things and installed them. And I think that was the same date I'm seeing on the hard drive of these payloads. So just FYI. So there's different compromise levels. So if you're dealing with Linux and you're dealing with Windows systems, I worked for 17 years at Rackspace, tons of infected machines. Typically, when you have a Windows box that's infected, it's root level compromised, or sysadmin, administrator level, system level compromised. It's owned. On Linux systems, about 80%, 90% of the time, it's just app or user level compromised. Those kind of things you can sometimes clean up and still use the system, still usable, as long as there's no compromises. You take it down, you do a scan, look for kernel modules and stuff like that. So, but in this case, this was a actual privilege escalation, so it was a local exploit that then was escalated to root level. So we're going to talk about that and what you can do. I was able to, after I dug into it, I was able to get a hash off one of the binaries. I actually turned their dropper into a download agent, a download client that downloaded all their packages for me to look at. So I was able to get the things hashed, and soon I plug the hash in and say, hey, this is called Redtail. You guys ever hear of Redtail? So they've hit everything from what were the router switches they hit recently last year? Anyone know? Any network admins here? It's not Cisco, but it's one of the big ones. There's like 3, huh? It wasn't Netgear.
Palo Alto.
Palo Alto. Thank you. The Palo Alto exploit that actually dropped these bit miners. I don't know why you put a bit miner on a router or a switch. I guess maybe they have nice hardware. Anyway, so but in this case, this one initially it infects, then LS, and it reinfects using cron. So after you clean it up, it'll come back and try to reinfect your system. Defense remediation, just in a nutshell. So minimize use of untrusted plugins. That's on me. Better browser controls. I've been talking to some guys recently about just running all my browsers in containers. If you run was it Tails and is it Cubes, and then there's one other one too. Starts with an N. I forget what it's called. Anyway, those are pretty popular. That's kind of hardcore. I'm not going to change my distro based on this, but I'm starting to think about running risky things in containers. So, just because it keeps it compartmentalized, and I don't want to go through this again. Looking at people don't look at egress traffic. A lot of these hacker groups, they don't care about security. They're not using HTTPS. I found this while I was sniffing HTTP traffic, port 80. We'll look at that too. As well as doing more network intrusion protection and host intrusion detection systems. So I should say network intrusion prevention and HIDs host intrusion detection. So you need multiple layers here, like an onion. You need layers to protect you, and then assume at some point you're going to get hacked, and you need to be able to set off red flag then too. And then remediation, in this case, nuke it from orbit. This is actually when I saw it, I was the head of BT Security, Randy Marchini. I told this story, he's like, ha, that's awesome, tweets. I'm like, yeah, okay, laugh it up. He's like, so how did you find it? What were you doing? I was like, I was actually making a CTF challenge and I was doing some basic auth out to my website to sniff HTTP1 base 64 encoding of usernames and passwords. So that's a great challenge. I want to do that. If you look, I was doing a TCP dump, 480, grepping for HTTP or authorization basic. And I get this stuff with a kernel doing some IP, doing a wget. And I'm like, what the hell is this? And then it's piping into SH. I'm like, oh damn, what's this? And then it's calling itself Apache. I'm like, oh no, what's going on? So I was really freaking out. Another WIP, and it's Red China. I'm like, oh wow. Okay.
Yes. Can you look it up in the same application that detected you?
No. I install all that. And you'll actually see footprints of that later. I usually end up using a website to do that. So I'm done installing plugins. So this said, okay, I need to get a little bit deeper. Let's actually take this TCP dump, record it, and pull it up in Wireshark. I'm curious, how many of you guys record traffic in Wireshark versus, okay, how many guys use TCP dump? From TCP dump. Couple gray beards, yeah, okay. How many guys actually record traffic in Wireshark? Okay. You catch more data in TCP dump, I'm just saying, it's faster. Unless you put really good filters on Wireshark. Anyway, so I got in there, I said, okay, I followed some sessions. I'm like, okay, this looks bad, a bunch of binaries are coming across, don't know what they are. So I said, okay, go ahead and do a file extraction. I'm seeing SH. I'm like, oh, that's I think that's me. So I go in there. I said, okay, Wireshark, what was that? Save it out. I'm like, save it out. It's like CD/temp or vartemp, and then curl this and rename it redtail.sh. I'm like, oh no. And then do this other wget, chmod it, make it executable, and then run it and delete itself. I'm like, okay, that's what I was looking for. So it's like, okay, let's go inspect this malware. I said, okay, this looks like, and I had to do some research. I'm like, never seen this before. This is really scary. Let's look at this. It's just a bash script. Really well written bash too. I actually highly condensed. It's 20 times longer than this. So I just put the functions up there and showed what it's doing to kind of off from the command line. So it makes a random string. This is new. This is its second version. It's changed in the last few months. I've been watching this thing online, and I've kind of got this little honeypot running now. So it creates a random. It didn't used to do this part. It's no longer calling itself redtail.sh. It's now calling itself a random string.sh. And then the DLR function is what actually does the getting. So you can say DLR, get clean, DLR, get x86-64, IC66, ARM, Arch. I'm like, geez, this thing is pulling down all these binaries for all these different platforms. So it's not just x86. So I defanged the redtail.sh dropper and turned it into a download client. And this is where I used it. I said, okay, go ahead and give me all this stuff. Because as soon as it downloads it, it deletes it. And I'm like, okay, well, I can't see anything if I can't play with it. So I turned it into a downloader and then watched it. Set up a little, here's my little redtail defanged sh, dev null, watch. Well, just watch this directory I put it in. Because it was going out to all the home, all the directories in the file system it could write to. And it was dropping little files, and I'm like, okay, that's gotta stop. So I kind of pruned it down, so it's doing it in the current directory. And watch it download. The clean script is a cron jacker. That's what modifies your cron jobs to make it persistent across reboots. And then the actual binary itself has the code for the crypto mining that sits in the background and does the modify system binaries, privilege escalation and modifying system binaries. And I later found all this, someone did a full write-up on it at SANS, I'm like, oh, just wasted like all this time doing this, but it's kind of fun. All right, so this is after I got this payload, I could do an MD5 sum on them, got the hashes, just Googled the hashes, and boom, this comes right up. I'm like, oh, look, they're gonna have a pretty graph of what it did to me. That's awesome. It's malicious. It was like a level 8 out of 10. And Luckily, it's not malicious, it does, evader, miner, spyware, and Trojan, so it wasn't, trying to destroy my system or do anything, or encrypt my file system or delete my files or anything, so hold me for ransom. So I guess that's good. I got a little bit more into it, got some more details, there are various iterations of this thing over time. There's quite a few different versions that target different places. This one came out of China. I guess it originally came out of the Netherlands, back in 2004, I think it was. And this same framework is being used by multiple nation states, evidently so. This is what it looks like up close. So it's a Trojan bit miner evader. So it's using your CPU. Oh, that's the other thing that got me thinking. When I first saw the HTTP traffic, I was like, that was the second red flag. The first red flag was when I come in on Mondays and sit down and move my mouse, my system load goes, and I'm like, my system graph is like at 20. I'm like, what the hell? That's not my screensaver. So I already knew something's wrong with the system. Because anytime you get a hacked system, you look at system load levels over time. What is this thing? Is this thing busy when it's supposed to be at nighttime? That's another red flag. So I had 2 red flags at that point. That's why I started digging into it. So that's not good. Gonna dig a little deeper. So I went ahead and looked at the infection date. It was 9 days prior. So I did a find across the whole file system, M time, 9 days, and just grep for anything in etc or binary or bin that ends in bin that's changed exactly 9 days ago, not within 9 days, but 9 days ago, that date. And I got some systemd target stuff, some GUIP. I installed this GUIP back then. I knew that. I installed that tool. Like, okay, I know about that. And I said, oh, cron, bin ls. Oh crap, that doesn't look good. I did not patch my system on 9 days ago and replace core utils, which contains bin ls. That's not good. All right, so time for a deeper scan. If you guys haven't used, how many of you guys have used a file altercation monitoring? Bam. Super useful. The other gray beard in the room. Super useful. It's a way of scanning a system for vulnerabilities that violate the expected norm. In this case, you can buy things like Tripwire and other third-party apps, but I really like the built-in tools in RPM and DADD-based packages. They track the packages and the repos track the MD5 sum or SHA-256 of every single binary that gets installed. You can use that to your advantage. I've actually got a script I'll share later. You can download and run on your systems that will scan your system and look for deviations from what's expected. And it's a great early warning system for host intrusion detection. Okay, you can run the same command. How many of you guys are RPM guys? Red Hat guys? Okay, if you're a Red Hat guy, you run RPM-VA. That's verify all, and then grep for *.5, which is grep for anything that has an MD5 mismatch, and then just grep for bin and etc. And then that will tell you if you're infected. That was a really quick way in Rackspace to tell, hey, is this system infected or not? Same thing on this one. Dead sums is a little different. You say if you run dead sums, it'll just scroll through everything saying okay, thousands of packages, and just say dead sums, anything's changed, and then grep for etc or bin slash. And yeah, bin ls has been modified from its original Debian repository. I'm like, oh crap. So by the way, this is my shameless plug. Go out here, free tool to I call it HB ban. It's my own hidden intrusion detection I use based on my work at Rackspace and bringing it to Virginia Tech. And I think we're going to start using this to scan our Linux endpoints, by the way, a variation of this. Because I don't want to track the baselines of every binary on the system. The OS already does it for me. So I'll just ask the operating system, hey, has anything changed that shouldn't? That's a smart way of doing it. So that's a really great way of detecting when system binaries have changed. Now, keep in mind, root level compromise. What's the one thing security experts will tell you about a system once it's been root compromised? Come on, somebody. You guys are security experts here.
Nuke from orbit.
Nuke it.
Well, besides that, why do you have to do it from orbit?
Can't tell if what's been changed.
You not only can you not tell, but what about the binaries? Someone said it. Our new director of the CyberRange.
Can't trust it.
You can't trust one freaking binary. unless you, even if you bring a toolkit, a USB drive with statically compiled tools that you mount read-only, you still can't trust because init could be compromised, okay? So you really have to power the system down, boot with an external motive, with an external media and scan the system that way. Using this kind of tool pointing to the databases and hope the database is unencrypted. By the way, I've never seen a compromised system. I don't look at them much anymore, but back when I did, I never saw a compromised system that had its RPM or that database wiped. They'll wipe var log. They'll wipe the logs, they'll shut off the logging system, but you never see them touch the databases. I don't know why, because that's a gold mine for us guys and with the white hats, okay? So check that out if you want to check it out. So then I said, okay, I want to really compare. I said, Ben and Caitlin, they're not available to do a binary exploration here, go spelunking in my hacked binary. So I'll just do an LDD. So I did an LDD on the original stock one, which I had a copy of. And I said, okay, that's it. And now on the compromised one, oh look, it's got libpthread ls. Has libpthread and libdownload. That's not good. Okay, that was the final thing. I'm like, okay, the system is not only owned, but it's persistent and it's totally owned. So I know I'm gonna have to do it from orbit. So and there was so what about post-detection cleanup? Like we said, clean up your cron tabs. Go look at those things that persist across reboots. Look at what's starting up. If you see new services. Oh, by the way, I didn't mention this bit miner. One of the things it does, it goes in looking for other malware bit miners and shuts them off. So it'll get all the CPU cycles. I was like, this is a service that do a system D CTL shutdown or disable and stop of this 3C something. It's a very well-known bit miner from somewhere else, and these guys shut it down so they get all the CPU credit. I'm like, damn, these guys are really evolving. So yeah, that was fun. So clean up all the cron, anything anacron, but at cron, anacron, cron, anything that survives across reboots. You can temporarily do a steps apt install, reinstall of whatever thing got hacked, in this case, core utils. Block egress traffic, especially to suspicious nations. There should not be any port 80 traffic going to China, Russia, or Korea. Just saying. Just saying. If you're going to buy something from Temu, it's not going to be over port 80. Okay. So that's going to my IP tables. I'll show you my IP table later. Once you get that done, physically pull the plug. Do not do a graceful shutdown, guys. Anyone who tells you in cybersecurity, you don't let them know you're about to go down. You pull the plug because that virus is still in resident memory. And it can do things when it sees a shutdown happening to preserve itself, okay? So once you clean this mess up, you got to pull the plug if you're going to preserve the system. But even if you're going to do forensics on it, you still need to pull the plug. In fact, the feds will tell you that. If you're going to image a system, and then pull the plug, yeah.
I was gonna say, I did a federal training for that, they say just pull the plug, don't shut the system.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's why, because it
Always
sets
do it.
off red flags. It lets them do dead man switches or whatever they're gonna do to preserve themselves or their persistence, yeah.
Maybe with laptop, you just pull the RAM out.
You remove the no, yes, wait. If you have a user serviceable battery, pull the battery out, then pull the power. Yeah, I do. I don't buy a system I can't pull the battery from. Actually, this is now, shoot. My old Dell had a removable, they don't have removable batteries, do they? They have to glue them in.
Yeah, they do.
That's terrible. Yeah, but that's why. And then monitor for egress traffic and key files, okay? So egress traffic is much more important than people think. And of course, in this case, yeah, you gotta do it from orbit, so. So remediation, clean up for app level, system or user, app or user level compromises. For root level, system level, you gotta do it, so. Prevention, host-based defenses, and then I have the onion here, why do I have an onion here?
Security layer.
Security and layers. That's one of my famous taglines. You guys know, do you know Monte? You met Monte? He's a SANS presenter now, but I told him, he said, I'm gonna steal this week's. I say, good security is like an onion. There's multiple layers, and the deeper you get into it, the more it makes you cry. I mean, that's true. So, multiple layers, guys. So minimize unused untrusted plugins. I can't believe I just did that. Now I'm gonna stop using Chrome too, because I'm done.
Yes.
Any other Chrome addicts in here? Yeah, give me it up.
Yeah.
My name's Tom. I use Chrome. Better browser controls through containers or something. Does anyone have a good idea there? What do you guys use? Anyone worry about your browsing? Kind of do it on another system or in a container?
I
Use
tried
any
that.
Tails users, huh?
I gave up. I had like a VM running and I was like running, so I was like, oh, this is too much. Like then I'm like spill over to my regular system, the host, and I was like, this is not working. I tried for like a good 2 weeks and it just.
Yeah, I use Chrome for my loosey-goosey stuff. Brave for my banking,
I use Brave
through a proxy, and then Firefox through another proxy for doing research I probably shouldn't do. So regularly inspect suspected egress traffic. This is harder because runs TCP dump or runs things 24/7. But there's nothing wrong with like doing spot checks. I think that can help a lot. But that gets more to the network infrastructure side. I'll talk about that further down. So block or restrict unusual egress traffic. So I already blocked on my mail servers. I blocked most of Asia from SMTP. That actually helped quite a bit. I don't email anyone in Asia. Sorry, I'm not racist, but yeah, all the spam was coming to me from Asia, as well as the malware and stuff. So blocking port 80 to China, Korea, and Russia, probably a good thing too.
163.126.com. So 163.126.com are not your friends.
Yeah, well, there's a whole bunch of /8s actually. So I do the /8 level. IP tables is great. So for intrusion prevention, NIPS stuff, I love fail to ban. How many guys use fail to ban? Yeah, first night I plugged in at CyberRange, I was like, whoa, I'm getting all these root SSH attempts on my system, and the guy worked with me, yeah, Tweets, you're on the open internet, dude. I'm like, at my desk, are you serious? It's a research university. You got a 128, man. I'm like, oh my gosh. So turn off fail to ban, port century. If you don't use mandatory access controls, SE Linux, AppArmor can actually help from things executing where they should be executing. Is Brad here tonight? So there's some other mandatory access control system he loves. Anyone know the name of it? It's something. It's not SE Linux. It's not AppArmor. It's something else.
Bubble wrap?
Huh?
Is it bubble wrap?
No, I would remember that name. So Brad, he presented last year, so he's got one. He's a Virginia Tech security guy working it so also. And then intrusion detection. So what you need to do to detect, okay, they got past all my layers, they're on the system. Regular FAM scans, and that's an HB band. You guys gotta check it out. I run it. I won't tell you how often I run it, but I run it, and it's actually set up to send me text messages using an SMS gateway. Really nice. I had to go off once, and luckily it was a false alarm, but not noisy at all. Really nice. So systemic defense. So centralized endpoint management. I hate to say it, but CrowdStrike is one of the best. I know. Well, what you guys recommend something else?
They are really good.
They are.
They are.
We're actually talking to them at the CyberRange, so they got some really cool stuff.
Yeah, they're really good.
Yeah. So I looked at it, I'm like, wow, that's so comprehensive.
Yeah.
Everything we should have been doing. But you can even look at egress traffic too. But our network guys, Virginia Tech, they're watching egress traffic big time. Okay, so I can get off the stage. So, and network anomaly detection, that's what Randy Marchini, the head of security at Virginia Tech, he's really big into. They baseline traffic going out of the university, and they watch for anomalies on holidays, spikes, things going to known problem countries, things like that. So what's the correct term for that? Third party or third countries that are on our bad list.
Rogue states.
Not rogue state. It is, but
It's the OFAC list.
it's what?
OFAC,
FAC?
OFAC.
Okay, what's that mean?
I can't remember, but that's the list of all the, sanctioned individuals and countries.
Okay,
Sanctions.
yeah.
Sanctions.
So, and they watch for those traffic patterns on the network. So if you have someone, how many of you guys are network administrators? Raise your hand. Oh, okay. All right, so those are more network guys and things. Any other thoughts, suggestions, things you should have done differently? I'm exposing myself here, my shame, being infected, so. But it was a really great learning experience. I hadn't really touched any crypto miner stuff. And now, I guess I'm an expert, so. Yeah. All right, that's it. Oh, here's some of my IP table stuff. So as soon as I found that rogue IP, plop that in my IP tables, log it, then drop it. If you don't know it happened, then it doesn't help you. True. This let me know that after I did one thing, I was still infected until it stopped logging and I was sure it was gone. And then this is what it looks like in your logs. So it's not super noisy. Well, it depends on what the client's doing, but it should minimize repeated packets. So really useful stuff built into our operating systems. So I'd say this and using the operating systems built in MD5 sums or SHA, whatever, fingerprinting of all your binaries is probably the most useful thing you can do to detect stuff. Because typically most systems they'll hack LS and PS, or now it's SS, I think. So yeah, LS, PS, and SS, because that's what sysadmins will use to look at the system, and that's what gives them persistence. That's what reinfects. So you can't trust those binaries, so, but they never touch the databases. So, all right, that's about it, guys. Thanks a lot. We'll take a break and do questions while we're waiting for Caleb. Caleb here?
I don't know if you can hear me, Thomas.
Yeah.
Tweaks.
Appreciate it, yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna take a break. I'll call Caleb.
Sure. Yeah. I knew it though. Yeah. Oh, Julian, okay, I was gonna ask.
He's on Zoom.
I thought, yeah.
There it is, there's one over here.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's got to go to all this.
Okay, cool.
I did breakfast with
We got this.
Okay, it's kind of hard to hear you. I don't know if you can hear me either.
I didn't know. I never really truly understood how.
But now we're bringing the big rock in.
It's like, I don't recognize your face here. Sorry, hey, what's his name? It's not about me required. Years ago, like on Zoom, I had everyone's petition. And so he went to like the product security side, right? I went to a red team.
Can anybody hear me in there?
That was really crazy, man. It's like contract. I know like 8 Okay, yeah, setting up. I got my starting. It's all kind of, so. That's awesome. Yeah. No, it's cool. I was really from the. I know you just always have to see security like, you know. Cyber stuff. So, yeah. Dude, I was this close to following them, and I was like. Oh, it's my first job, so it's not, you know, I got a bit more to learn before I take it. This guy. It's quite a lot of things here. I saw it, it was like. Yeah, I'm like a pretty. I think I got you know, I was thinking towards more confident. Yeah, I feel that I was getting the more.
And then we got the 19 side, right?
Yeah. So that's we. Yeah. But yeah, no, like. About that problem. I didn't do so. I was like, oh, we can all think that it's a point start. And you know, they're like so nice. Like, yeah, no, class, and how does it bring your I took the they needed to find where it wasn't. Yeah. It's doing high all this stories of I somehow be the oh yeah, because there's a process so it's like it was like you were something excited about it. So I tried like
This is Caleb from Virginia Tech. So he's the guy who does all those skin monitoring.
Hey, can you hear me in there? Can you hear me, Thomas?
I'm sorry.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes. Wait, put the mic over.
Hold on.
Okay, cool.
We can hear you.
Mic
You can hear me good?
Yeah.
Can anybody hear me?
No, we
Can
can't
you-
hear you. Hold on.
Okay.
We're gonna do this, I'll do the audio hack. Can you get audio from?
I think there's RBTC, but
It comes across your HDMI, I think, probably.
Mine, that one. Oh, okay. I'm gonna unplug here. Actually, I have to. Routing audio from one of the presentation machines.
Okay, cool. Yeah, just let me know. Hey, tell Ben I want to be friends because that presentation was amazing.
Hey, are you talking right now?
Yes, I am.
Oh, we hear it, but just turn it on.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. Crank me up. Put some AC/DC behind it. Cool. So can everybody hear me now?
Awesome, dude.
Awesome. Everybody can hear me good? Yeah. Well, I wanted to give kudos first. Ben, that was an amazing presentation. And I put in the chat, I didn't know if y'all were looking at the chat, but you are exactly right that a lot of times web app is so overlooked for like the things that we can do is just, it still amazes me. It's an ever evolving field. And it's kind of like the last frontier, I feel like sometimes in pen testing where there's always going to be something new popping up. So, man, you've just done such an amazing job. So, yeah, so everybody, my name's Kalen. I'm sorry I'm not there in person. I live in North Carolina and I'm 3 hours away, but this is so amazing that the next time y'all have this, I'm coming in person because I just want to meet everybody. And Thomas has talked highly about everybody. So to get into it, what originally started, Tweaks reached out to me and, wanted me to do this last year. And I didn't really have anything. And this year, when we got to talking, there was a big 40net exploit that came out and we started looking at it. And I wrote a exploit script, and then he told me somebody from y'all's group in Rise had already wrote it. And then I found Watchtower came out. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to talk about this. So we got to chatting and I was telling him about things that I'm doing and kind of like projects that I'm utilizing at work. And I brought up Patch Knife and how I was going to speak at it at Internet to Exchange coming up in December and VA Scam. So what is Patch Knife? So I started this because my supervisor and my Jedi Master, Brad Tilley, is a god of Go. And he kept telling me, man, I want you to start coding in Go. It's really great for pen testing tools. There's a lot of dependencies that's already in there. So you don't have to remake the boat. You just have to provide your own oars and it's going to float. So I started looking into things I wanted to do. Well, I thought of writing what I call now Patch Knife. It's a precision toolkit for hunting exploitable vulnerabilities in the shadows. When I say in the shadows, it runs under the radar. I can get more into that. Also, this is a very working presentation that I'm presenting in a few weeks. So where it's still in the rough kind of scenario. And you'll see here at the bottom, I build it for teams that don't have the budgets. They don't get funding. They don't get the fancy tools. So they need something. So I was trying to think of like something open source that I could put out there that people can run and get active results exploited, get shells and different things. So the problem in higher education security is that they just don't get money. They don't get a lot of funding, and a lot of times at these smaller schools and smaller organizations. So higher education networks are sprawling and complex. This is very true. So when you get tools like Node Zero, it's they claim it as an artificial AI pen testing tool. I've got to utilize it. It's not so much. It's great, but it's machine learning at its best. And it utilizes a lot of tools that we have in Kali Linux, right off the bat. So it kept me thinking, okay, well, this doesn't really work well because internally you have to have a VM or you have to have a Docker image and it has to have a runner and all these different things have to be so this cloud service can see it. So having something lightweight that I could code and just have it on my computer or download it to somebody else via repository just was very just enticing to me. So that's kind of where I started putting the pieces together. Okay, so traditional scanners generate way too much noise. And if I'm trying to be an attacker, how I teach students that work with me, I tell them I always try to be the attacker. So when I go into a pen test, I want as little information as possible, but I want to know in the future if I can't find anything, you'll give me a little more and tell me what devices I'm looking at. And I always teach them the significance of starting dumb and blind with your Nmap scans. So basic Nmap scans. And then what does that tell you? If you don't get results back, maybe there's a firewall in place. And then you continue to escalate your scans. TAC SV, give me more information. TAC PN. Okay, well, a lot of firewalls have ping disabled. So let's see if that gets me around and gives me information. So these are all the things that I constantly do, and they take a lot of time. I'm one man and I'm running a lot of pen tests. So I needed something to kind of automate these things. Okay, so Patch Knife is a modular Go-based toolkit for real-time recon and exploitation. I mainly started reconnaissance, but then I'm like, by the time you get something to reconnaissance and it's exploitable, it's not that much harder to write the exploitation for it. So I purpose built this for the university at Virginia Tech and the College of IT Security team. This case I'm out and they need to test. We have other people, but I was also thinking, what happens in the future if somebody's not there that can run this test? Okay. So it was created by defenders for defenders. Now let me get into this a little bit. When I started looking at exploitations, I didn't want to be, or nor did I have it in my heart to write something like Metasploit, because I don't have enough lifetimes to do that personally. And I started thinking, well, okay, so we're talking about something with not as many modules. Well, then now let's do it purpose built. I do a lot of purple team exercises with our blue team. And what we do is we try to reverse engineer threat intelligence. So they'll bring threat intel to me that they're like, hey, I'm not sure what this log means, but it's suspicious. A lot of times it's port mapper. Port mapper popped up when I first started having this idea. Why is port mapper getting hit all the time? I'm like, well, they're living off the land, dude. They're using it to find information. I was like, that's what they're doing. So I started thinking, okay, well, all these purple team exercises are giving me real time on what attackers are doing all the time. Okay. So I was like, well, it'd be perfect if this toolkit was doing that. All these new exploits, or not even so much exploitation, is like tying together a lot of misconfigurations that they're exploiting together for one kind of really cool, grandiose attack. And I was like, keeping a tally of all these things. I've already done the research, already know how to do it. Boom, put it down. And then eventually I had enough where I'm like 4 or 5 of them. I'm like, let's write a little code. Okay. So I don't know. I think I've already done this. Yep. I'm going the wrong direction. Okay, so let's get into some of what makes it unique. Okay, so I was talking about how I get it from the blue teams, and there's these different attacks. So now I start looking at these attacks like modules. Okay, so they're built firsthand from the blue team experience. I talked about that. Inspired by real world attack behavior. I talked about that. Provides exploit confirmed findings. I didn't go into that. Now, what I'm saying is when I have one of these exploits go through, it puts it in output. The output's constantly showing me everything. I despise whenever there's a new toolkit out there that exploits something and they don't give you anything. They don't want to give you what it exploited. They don't want to give you if the keys of the kingdom, the hash, or they just say, yeah, it exploited it. Okay, well, show me. And then show me how you did it. I need to see commands because all great pen testers that I've learned from and my mentors is trust but verify. And that's a huge thing in all of cybersecurity. I trust that this tool is giving it to me, but I need to verify it. And I'll do that at all the time, even with manual stuff. I'll get a result, but can I trust this result? Okay, I need to verify it. So I always have this double confirmation. So I knew that I wanted to have these kind of modules give me exploits in real time in my output, show me everything you're doing, plus a report. I want you to print a report for me, and I want to include remediation steps. So another thing that I do on the side, whenever I have pen test reports, I learned a long time ago that I'm constantly hating reports because I always have to go out there and get information on things I already know, but I can't remember it all. So I keep me a cheat sheet of remediations for different write-ups, different vulnerabilities. So I just included it in here. It's in my code. Whenever I get something exploited, it prints it in my report and it gives it remediation steps of confirmed things, how the sysadmins can fix it. Okay. And prioritizes threats actually seen in the wild today. I already went into that. Now, just, and please trust that this was an experiment for me I had a bigger thing I wanted to get to. You'll probably see it down towards the bottom of this. But I was just putting these together based off of what I saw, and I wasn't trying to make this a complete thing. I wanted to see if it worked. So I didn't need everything that I had been seeing in the wild. I just needed some of them. And I casually went for the things that are a little easier. So I kind of had information on like MB enumeration, IPMI, IPMI hashes, they're everywhere. Everybody's got to expose the internet, and a lot of times you can get that hash really easy with a lot of different ways. So these are the kind of toolkits I did. NTP reflection, FTP and NFS misconfigurations. When I brought this specific module up to Tweaks, he was like, "Oh, you go old school." I was like, "Yeah," because where we're at today and what I do in my research of trying to see what nation states and these great attackers are doing, they're kind of going back to this like old school mentality. And I feel like we're at this kind of gatekeeper, like the Stargate to the different universe of pen testing. And when I say that, what I mean is we're getting ready to break into this world where AI is going to come present in pen testing and start finding things that we spend a lot of time trying to find really quickly. So attackers are starting to go, okay, well, a lot of this stuff is patched, vendors are on top of it. That's really cool if I'm internal, but I'm usually not. So they're going to these old school methods, and I utilize that a lot. I love finding NFS shares. My goodness, because people put the craziest things in here. And a lot of times you can get the IP addresses that are allowed to look at these shares. Okay, well, what does that tell me? I could stop there as a remote attacker, yes. But if I'm a good remote attacker, now I have information. If I get that foothold, okay, well, now I'm at a workstation. I'm in the same subnet. Let's spoof my IP address for one of these NF shares that has access. And boom, now I'm digging through their stuff. And these are the kind of things that I like to string together. It's fun, it's old school, but it's still utilized all the time. We're always in Virginia Tech getting hit with these kinds of attacks. So that's kind of why I went to this direction. Okay, next one. So talking about the reports real quickly, I'm highly dyslexic and I did this wrong the first time. In my thought, I'm like, I exploited it. Green, that means I did it. And I showed it to all my friends and my colleagues and they're like, "Hey man, don't you mean to put exploitation as red?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, you're right." That makes me, it's like, it's a bad thing. It's a good thing I did it, but it's a bad thing. So the reports will print out, and the good thing is in my output, it shows me the colors. Okay. So I'm getting red, yellow, green. Once again, not for me, for your basic user that doesn't do pen testing. I didn't want a lot of severity levels. I didn't need critical, high, medium, low informational and all the different keys out there. I just needed three little things. It's bad. It could be bad. It's okay. So basic overview. Once again, writing this for people and for organizations that don't have pen testers and they don't have the money to afford a pen test. They just need a toolkit. Okay. So here's an example output, not something that I got, just showing you kind of loosely what it would look like. So red, SMB share, vulnerable to anonymous. Okay. Yellow, NTP server responds to monolith request. This is something I've been digging into a lot lately because I recently, while writing up this, realized that my code was wrong. I have my code where it'll show me red, yellow. It kind of looks like an orange. You'll see in a second for the monolith request. And we get hit that a lot on the NTP servers from attackers. But what I thought was exploitable, I was actually incorrect on. I need to work on this module in my code. Okay, so then green IPMI. Okay, so simple. Now let's get in a little bit of it. I love Mr. Robot, if anybody likes that. So I'm a nerd. Hello, everybody. Okay, so here, ever since I started in cyber, every time I would pull up Cali, I felt like the coolest guy. I felt like that guy. So I wanted to have my own little, oh, look at me, I made a little thing. So yeah, this is me talking about it for 5 seconds, and I appreciate it. Okay, so now this is actual output of what I'm getting. I redacted it for your and my safety and my job security. But you can see what it's doing. So it's running FTP module. Okay, gave them weird names just to be unique. And I'm scanning this IP behind the red for FTP issues. Okay, it's good. It shows me in green, real time. And this happens really fast. I'll go into that in a second. Okay, running the NTP monosith. Okay, that's what I made it, mono Sith. Star Wars, anybody? Okay. Anyways, so where you can see it shows me, okay, well, response is detected, and we're doing it as a remote attacker. I shouldn't see that, so it's yellow. All right, oops. And you can see on down. Trying to find now. Yes. So here was one that I just copied and put. This is my report. Okay. The report prints in a text form. You can send it to anybody, but it's really basic. It's got the color. It says red. It gives you the IP, exported if an NFS shares found. Okay. So now what I'm doing in this module is showing me open NFS shares to, to globally accessible. And then it shows me, okay, well, this is the path that you can get to, and you can see, and these are the IP addresses that are allowed to see these shares. So if I get internal access, and I can now spoof it. Usually that's plenty for anyone to go get that fixed, get that remediated after you turn the report in. And then you can see the yellow as I was talking on that one. Now, before we get to questions, let me go into a few things. I'll go back to the slide. It looks cool. Reasons that it flies under the radar and reasons it's really quick. I didn't want this to be Nessus or Rapid7. God, I can't stand Rapid7. Or any other kind of scanner that is loud and noisy, and they give a lot of information, things that I don't have time to code, nor do I want to. I wanted this to be lightweight. I wanted it to be hopefully untraceable, not throw a bunch of red flags, not get blacklisted, and I can run it as much as I want. So I had to start thinking outside the box. So for one, when I let me go, well, I can't show that. When I write these, when I enter my scope in, actually can show you this screen. So, whoops, 1 second. Okay, cool. I remembered my password. So when I write, this is my modules and everything for my directory listing of it. And you'll see that I've got that, it says scope.txt. So whenever I run, I got to be careful not to run this. Actually, let's see here. So a test example, it would be patch knife all, and then report, and I would list the report. Now you'll notice in this that I do not have a scope or anything in here. I want this to be easy again. So in the help page, it states that you enter your scope into this scope.txt, just like you would do in an nmap scan. Every IP gets its own line, and then it pulls it automatically. So you just run that. You can run all, you can run individual modules. You can list a report. If you want a report, it'll print it out. If not, it gives you in your output and tells you everything you can go see. So now let's get back to why it's running kind of under the radar. When I have these IP addresses in the scope.txt, they are not scanning the toolkit. Patch Knife is not scanning each IP address for every module. Let's say theoretically, hypothetically, down the road, I have like 100 or 200 modules. That's going to set off a lot of alarms. So instead, what I did was I said, okay, how about I go by port or by module in this case? Each module is related to one port, and then it has the ability for that port to include as many vulnerabilities as I want to put in the module for that port. Okay, so it starts at the first IP address, and it runs the module 1, module 2, module 3, and only that port for that IP address. And then it goes to the next one and it runs through all the modules. Now, what another thing it's doing is once it gets through that module for that IP, for all the IPs, and it goes to the next module and starts back the IP list, it randomizes the IPs, because I don't want them to be something where it's like, man, why are these getting hit? And I'm looking at it in real time and it's the same thing and you're seeing a pattern and boom, I got an alert. I don't want a pattern. So I'm randomizing them every single time. I'm sorting it and putting it in a random order. And then now the scope that .txt is running again for a different module on a different port. To me, that was the simplest way I could try to make this, I should say, undetectable and kind of under the radar. Not really loud. It's just hitting a port and then it slows down. Okay. Then it hits a port again. Now, another thing that I'm going to add in the future is I want to run some like time delays. So in between ports, in between modules, and just kind of really make it as random as possible. And that's where I'm looking at. I'm not looking at like bouncing my IP or making it look like I'm coming from a different places. Complicated. I just need this simple. And if I get caught, it's not a big deal. I'm just trying to make it in the viewpoint of an attacker. So loosely, that's how I got around that. Like I said, I'm trying to think old school, not trying to build a new boat that's super impressive, just lightweight and as simple as possible. I just need it to stop and go. This is a car. I just need it to stop and I want it to go. So yeah, basically that's everything that Patch Knife is. Does anybody got any questions at this point? I know I'm forgetting a lot, but it's kind of hard to go into everything and I get passionate and start bumbling at the mouth.
And then can you show us can you hear me, Ken?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you show us a report and maybe your scope, what scope looks like?
I can't because the reports are all, they include IPs. They're all Virginia Tech. And my scope is the same way. The scope is all. What's that?
That was a test.
I got you. Yeah. Well, I was going to pass that one. Yeah.
What's the format of the scope.txt?
So it's literally just like a, let's just do this. So, sudo, test scope.txt. Okay. Okay, so let's just say IP, just like you would do TAC little I big L for an Nmap scan to use the scope from a text file. It's the same thing, just an IP per line. Simple, easy to follow. And a lot of times, like for instance, when I was doing this, I wanted it to be a lot like Nmap. Oh, something else I didn't go into. I forgot my place. Hold on a second. I was talking about Nmap. Oh, dependencies. So I did not want this to be dependent upon anything because I didn't want a lot to be. When you see that build.sh, it pulls from, the only thing it really pulls is make sure that you have Nmap locally. But right now I wrote it for Linux. I wrote it in Go, knowing that Go is super flexible across OS, and I wanted it to be able to go to Windows or just whatever. But it's not dependent. So like for instance, the IPMI hash disclosure, there's tons of ways to exploit that. There's plenty of GitHub repositories on it. There's the easiest one on Metasploit. You can convert it. I'm pretty sure you can confirm it that it's vulnerable, but I don't know if you can get a hash. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong in Nmap with the script. So knowing that Nmap was the only thing I really wanted there's no other dependencies. So the IPMI hash disclosure, I just wrote my own code based off of things that are out there. So it's in here and you don't have to worry about all these dependencies and, well, the code's not working. Once again, thinking for someone that's not a pen tester or not in security or just not technically super savvy. Any other questions?
Can you just place a newly created module and does it go through the entire like module directory or do you have to explicitly add it? If you created a, sorry, yeah, is that fair?
Oh yeah, no, yeah, you're great. Yeah, so all I would do is, it's all wrapped in the CLI wrapper. What am I doing? So for instance, so here's some of my stuff. Let's look at one. So let's just go to, let's look at the NFS recon. So cat NFS. Okay, so you can see my code here. So every time that I want to do something like add a new module, I literally go, oh, I'm in there. Okay, so let's look at all my module names, and I'm not in it actually, sorry. So I just create me a new little module, write my Go code, I have it in modules, and then my patchknife.go actually says, okay, when you're running this, go to this directory. And I'm talking to the students in the class, and essentially, okay, we're running this new module. Okay, cool. And it's here, it's at this directory. Awesome. So my patchknife.go is what is kind of running the whole thing. We can look at that code as well if you'd like. My brain is gone today, y'all. Okay, cool. Okay, so yeah, if you look here, you can see how I can just add another one, and that's it. And there's a few things up here I'll have to change, different things, but it was a great question because I knew I wanted to add things to this. So I wanted to be able to add new modules and not be so hard that if it takes me 2 years, then I'm like, crap, how did I do this? And honestly, the best advice I got, I went straight to Brad Tilley, my supervisor, literally the Lord ago. And he was like, hey, if you want to make this really good, this is what you should do. He was actually the one that pointed out the colors and pointed out that I needed to randomize things to really fly under the radar. But it works really great. We do the tool I was talking about, Node Zero. We acquired it back at Christmas, and essentially the idea came from the problems that we saw in this really expensive tool, and we just started talking about it. And I was like, well, man, I've been wanting to do this project, and he kind of was like, I think it's a great idea, but think outside the box. And that's when I had the idea to do these modules based off of things that I was seeing from these purple team exercises. Any other questions out there? I really hate I'm not there in person. I'd love to meet everyone. I've just heard a lot of great things from Tweaks.
Hey, Caleb, real quick, Tweaks, is, on your remediation, on your reports, are you listing, can you show anything? Is there, the list CVEs and patches, or what's it
Yeah,
show?
good question. So I'm very paranoid the further I get into my career. I hate including links. I hate them. I hate when somebody sends me, even somebody I know, when as soon as they send me something like, hey, can you click on this real quick? Absolutely not. I'm not doing that. So I don't have links in there. I will put CVEs for some cases, but really what I'm trying to put in there, I always try to think simple as more. Like one of the companies I worked for when I was contracting before Virginia Tech, man, their report was it just was so much filler, and it looked fantastic. But I'm looking at this and knowing the companies I was working with, they were lost in translation, literally, of all this. And everybody's like, well, the executive summaries for the executives. Yes, but all that's telling me is what is high and critical, and that's pretty much it. And other people add more into it. Well, the findings are great. Yeah, they're super technical. And then I'm putting all these CVEs in, but that's something anybody can find. And what I really need to include is maybe a CVE, but very hardened, do this, patch this. What command do I run? And then I put the command in. Okay, if you want to patch, Apache, then do this. So yeah, I try to keep it super simple, but and a lot of these remediations, tweaks, like for instance, Bruce Buskell, one of my friends and a great mentor that I've gained in the past few years. He is an unbelievable sysadmin and just network guru. So he gives me a lot of things when I'll send him a report. He's like, hey man, that was great, but your remediations were shit. And then he'll give me stuff that he thinks is better, and I'll verify it in like my own little lab. I'll spin up whatever is vulnerable and see if the patches fix it when I exploit it. So yeah, I try to keep them really simple, because to me, and especially at Virginia Tech, I've had such a hard time building this red team of getting departments to work with me because we're the bad guys. And so I've tried to be like, hey, yeah, I'm going to find problems, but I promise you that I'm going to give you the best remediation that I can possibly give you to cut down the time. Because that's the biggest things we can do as pen testers is, you know, the product, it's really cool to us when we do a really cool hack. I mean, something just slick and slicker than a peeled onion. But they don't care about it. They're just like, crap, this is great. I got to go to my people and say this is vulnerable and I set it up or whatever. But what's really good is if they can fix it really quick and go, yeah, pen test went great. They found a bunch of vulnerabilities and we've got it patched and it's confirmed. And they retested it and it's confirmed. So yeah, sorry, I went off on a tangent, but has anybody got any other questions?
Where's the repo?
Oh, well, that's another good question. So what I on a one slide you would saw, I was talking about something I was wanting to do. So I presented this to a couple conferences and got into them, and I told Brad and Randy was like, "Don't put it out there yet." I was like, "Okay." So initially, yeah, you laugh, but that's exactly what I thought. I'm like, "Oh God, what is Virginia Tech going to do with this?" And what did I just lost an island? Like, not really, but I just, never been in this kind of scenario. He was like, "No," he's like, "I want you to keep it because you can expand upon this." He was like, "Don't put something out there until you're ready." I'm like, "I love that because I'm not ready." And then I started, dabbling. I've been dabbling a lot in LLM. I've been hacking a lot of LLMs lately, and it's been a lot of fun. So then I was like, well, I'd like to start working with some local LLMs. And while I was doing that, I was doing it for trying to find vulnerabilities, trying to find these little slick things that you can do in my free time. But then I got to thinking it'd be really cool if I got one of these localized LLMs that are super lightweight, put on a laptop if it's got, sufficient resources and run, but have it work in conjunction with Patch Knife. So that, and I don't really know how I'm going to do it yet. I'm in the kind of beginning phase of it. I'm really kind of drawing it out from the ideas I have, but that's my next step is not really worried so much about having a lot of modules or utilizing it a lot. I want it to more or less just be like this. How could I do this? So yeah, that's my next step is I'm going to try to work it in with localized LLM. Any other questions? Can y'all hear me? Still there? Okay.
Are you allowed to share the URL?
What's that?
Are you allowed to share the URL?
The URL.
I thought you got it on GitHub or something.
Oh, no. I don't have it out there yet. Not yet.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully soon. I mean, I'd love to have it out there more or less just to meet, passionate people that are doing the same thing. Ever since I've been at Virginia Tech, I kind of got closed off from that community. And that's why I was so excited to meet everyone. So next time I'll have to come in person, but
Have you been up to the Rise group yet?
I haven't. And I've been so excited because you've been telling me all about them and that sounds right down my alley, but yeah, unfortunately, all my best friends, they all went to government and can't talk about anything anymore. So they're just a bunch of suckers. It's like, I did something really cool today. That's cool. What'd you do? I can't tell you. You suck. I don't believe you. You should. I think you're lying. So, yeah. Heck yeah.
Anything else? That's it, man.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate everybody. And I guess the last thing I wanted to add was just talk about securing the human and that your family can also be vulnerable. For instance, earlier, I didn't realize that there wasn't a link for Zoom and I started freaking out. It's 5 o'clock. I'm ready to log on and meet everybody and see everything going on. And I keep looking and I'm like, oh, it's an in-person event. So I'm like, oh, I got to call Thomas, but Thomas is there. I don't have Thomas's number. So I started hacking a little bit and I found it through an API call in Virginia Tech. It's out there. Boom, got his number. Called it. I was like, hey, is this Thomas? And it was a lady that answered. And she's like, no. I was like, is this Thomas Weeks' address? And she's like, yes. I was like, awesome. My name's Sayland and I work with Thomas. And then as soon as I said it, I felt like the biggest attacker, scammer, cool dude like ever. And I'm like, oh yeah, let's go with this. I was like, yeah, I was actually calling because I'm going to be in his, you know about his conference? Is he home? She's like, no, he's gone. I was like, cool. Well, I need some of his info if that's all right. And she started laughing. I was like, look, I work with him. I was joking. You don't have to give me any info. And she was like, I don't care nothing about the dark arts. I'll give you what you want. Here's his phone number. I was like, awesome. What's his date of birth and his first dog and the street he grew up on and any information. So I met your wife, was what I was saying, Tom.
Oh, man, great.
Oh, no. I even told her I was going to give you a hard time about it, but that's pretty fun. And this isn't like a tag you're it scenario, so don't come after me. So we're good.
What's on, man?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways, but thank you everybody so much for having me and let me present this little project of mine.
Hey, stick around. We're gonna take a picture of the speakers. About to put your face on the screen for a second.
Awesome. Heck yeah.
All right, guys. That's it. Eat all the food. Stick around, ask questions if you want. There's Caleb. Hey, dude.
What's up, everybody? How you doing?
Hello. There we go. There we go. That's Caleb. Oh. He used to be much more hairy.
Yeah. I donated it all.
You are really. That's awesome. Guys, feel free to network and drink lots of drinks. A little bit more food left on my soup. How many of you guys are here from Rise? Raise your hand. All right, talk to any of these guys about the meetings they have up in Roanoke every month.
Every month, every second Thursday of the month.
Yes.
Next Thursday?
Yeah, come on up, man.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Next Thursday is a social.
At Twisted Track at 6.
At Twisted Track at 6. That's local if you're not from around here. Highly recommend it. You know, next week's social, just we kind of get together, we just talk shop, have a drink, have fun. But usually we'll have like other talks and speakers and stuff. Pretty similar to this.
Very similar.
Yeah, so
Cool.
look it up. RoanokeInfosec.com. Rise Roanoke, you can Google it.
There's they also have a Discord, it's the Roanoke Discord server.
Yeah,
The InfoSec channel.
the InfoSec channel of Roanoke's Discord.
Yeah, so it's really good.
Yeah.
RISC, Roanoke, right?
Yeah, Roanoke InfoSec Exchange.
Yeah, RISE.
All right, I see.
Yeah, sorry.
It's actually hard to find when you Google it.
Is it?
Yeah, you find it through the B-sides Roanoke. Link. There you go.
Yeah, that's the first one. Yeah, okay.
Oh, good. And don't forget, check out the B-sides.
Yes.
That's coming up here in the spring or June.
And yeah, Bolo for B-sides information. I don't know if we're ready. I don't know when.
Yeah, we're not there yet.
I don't know if we can, when that can announce, but I don't, yeah, I'll stay silent on it, but just be on lookout.
First half of the year. I guess
bsides.OA.org, right?
Yeah.
I thought Rob gave a date.
I don't know if that.
The question is whether he gave the date to us or.
I was last Rise.
Did he?
I'm pretty sure he did.
Okay.
The one that all starts early, you
Okay,
can't stop it.
June 5th, maybe, is what we're looking at for B-sides. Highly recommend. It's gonna be a lot of really fun stuff. I can't say
It's a
anything.
full day Friday.
Yeah, it's a full Friday, and I'm sure
it would be here.
it would be here. Yeah, so
Down
if you go
there,
here,
yeah.
you know. And I know certain employers would probably look the other way if you attended, you know, security conference that was
Job development, man. That's
Yeah,
job
exactly.
Professional development.
Yeah,
Professional development.
and we have a CTF, we play games, and we have big sponsors and lots of prizes, Raspberry Pis, and all kinds of fun hacking stuff.
Oh yeah,
Hack 5.
lots of fun stuff.
Yeah, stuff. We get a picture.
Oh sure, yeah.
You get the,
Hey, look, you still on?
hey kid, still on?
Yeah, I'm still here. I've been listening.
You're
gonna need to lock in.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
One sec.
I
I don't know if you can see the shared screen. I think
Yeah, I got my headphone here on. That's so weird to see myself on two screen. I'm literally seeing 4 versions of myself.
Yes, and we're making noise.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
You just
How
like
about
choose,
Hey, 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 hey. How you doing? Oh God, I went away. I'll come back. Hold on. All right, everybody quiet. Didn't work. Let me try again. Hello, everybody. How you doing today? Nice to meet you. This is so weird. I'm just sound like a weirdo. Hey, Roddy. How you doing? Awesome. I'd love to come to one of those meetups. Do y'all meet in Roanoke? Is that right?
yes, yeah, that's correct. It's probably a ways away, but
We usually stream them,
yeah, we do stream them. Yeah, thank
usually
you.
on, we usually share a
Well,
link.
I'm coming back to campus every other month now, so I'd love to just y'all want to grab a beer or something. Just love to hang. Yeah, Tweaks, you're invited as well if you want.
Yeah, we need to do lunch, man.
All right, bye everybody. Nice meeting y'all.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
If you sign up for the event, watch, you'll get spammed.